Hey, we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good, man. I was actually outside with the dogs a little earlier, and I think I fell asleep in the chair, so I may be a little burnt um, uh, over the next few days. We'll see how that goes out, man. But had to take advantage of this beautiful sunshine we had out there today. I think it's 70 something degrees. First and foremost, we want to make sure that if you haven't seen in the comments there, Steve Noddy, who's with Fanatic Perspective, obviously his mother passed away this last week. They have an actual GoFundMe site set up. We put the link in the comments here. So if you're able, willing and able, go ahead and head over to that GoFundMe site and help them out if possible. Again, if you're able to. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with his family as they go through this time. So just kind of wanted to put that out there as well. Crazy recruiting situations, man. It's like a whole bunch of people are putting, their top eights and top fours and top fives and in hourglasses and stuff. And you kind of hope these things drop. And so kind of see what's going on, man. So we'll kind of go through those guys. Your thoughts, man, over the last couple of days.
Yeah, like you said, we kind of lost a couple of guys that we felt we could have had in Faison Wilson and Landon Hullaby. Not sure what the Faison Wilson situation was, whether it was a Chris Gilbert has got hired on a UT staff, so he's no longer able to take that scholarship, or it's hey, he never got reoffered by the university. You've heard both sides. So if guys are out there and know what really happened with the Faison Wilson situation, it'd be awesome to understand that. But so a guy who had, we want to say legacy, but he really didn't have a legacy. He had his brother who was in the previous class as a linebacker. Jaden Hullaby, of course, was a Longhorn, so you felt pretty well since Landon had got a scholarship offer from the University of Texas. He was going to take that opportunity and run with it. But then again, you got Kevin Coleman drops his final 8, and Texas is there. Denver Harris drops his final 4, and Texas is there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important. Obviously we've kind of nailed down who the top guy in this class is, and that's obviously Devin Campbell to us. He dropped the hourglass last night. I don't know. I know people said he wanted to prolong his commitment. To me, again, I've said this multiple times now. I think he's a silent to the University of Texas. I don't know how he feels about the recruiting process. Maybe he's ready to get it over with. I know that's kind of the way Denver Harris feels at this particular point. I don't think he was wanted to stay in the recruiting process very long. I know he had a top 4 of what I think us, A&M, Alabama, and I think LSU currently crystal ball to us in that situation. But again, I don't. It's kind of hard to read the tea leaves and the crystal balls at this particular point. With the crystal balls have kind of dropped over the last couple of days, and then all of a sudden you have Landon Hullaby going to Oregon, and obviously another one, Steve Wilfong, who's usually like 100% on his crystal balls, has missed the last couple of times, so it's hard to really read these crystal balls. But I feel really good about Denver Harris and where we're at with Denver Harris. I feel really good about Coleman. Every time you look at Coleman, he had some comments about Sark and Sark's offense at Alabama, and I think he really trusts Sark at this particular point. So I think we're in a good place there, and I think we're in a really good place for Harris, man. So all 3 of those guys, I think obviously you have a 25% chance of getting Harris. You have, if you do the math, you have a really good chance of getting Coleman, which I think he had a top 5 at one particular point, and I think he went back and he added 3 schools to that mix. But we'll see. I know he's not committing until I think one of the either the Under Armour or the All-American Bowl.
All-American game,
when he's supposed to commit. So that's a long ways off. So.
Yeah, there's a couple things we talked about was were there 4 to 5 scholarships for the receivers, and again, when you already have Armani Winfield, you already have Emmett Stewart, and guys are out there still on the board like Marshall, Coleman, and Williams. The kid from Houston, the kid from St. Louis, Missouri, and the kid from modern day there in California. I see guys talking in the chat. Faison really wasn't a loss, and we talked about that on our Friday show. Was how many scholarships are available for the wide receiver position, and where do you want to go with those scholarships? Because again, you got a slot receiver in what I think is Evan Stewart. You have a H/Z receiver in Armani Winfield. How do you want to feel like your wide receiver core? Is it the kid from Houston, the kid from St. Louis, or the kid from California? And are you taking all 3 of those guys? at this point. Are you taking 4? Are you taking 5? But again, probably the best receiving core in the 2022 class, bar none, for the University of Texas, if any of these guys come in. Because again, Evan Stewart and Armani Winfield bring a lot to the football field already.
Yeah, I think Steve Wilfong put it out the other day. I think he was talking about that Faison was going to commit, couldn't commit for whatever reason, and then he named 3 guys that they're almost saving positions for, and that's Coleman, Chris Marshall, another guy, a junior that's played 1 year of ball, that's out here, doing things in this 7-on-7 tournament out there at Bullhead City, doing crazy things, which. His rank is going to skyrocket. You'll watch this happen. His rank's going to skyrocket. So I think he's like at 80, 87 or 88 right now. I think you'll see that probably jump up in the next rankings, probably be at 92, 93. And it wouldn't surprise me by the end of his senior year if he wasn't one of the top 10 wide receivers in the nation. Those things, man, we're really at this particular point looking really good on the wide receiver front. Then you have Nwafe Tui, linebacker out of California, that's going to be dropping his top 5 pretty soon. It wouldn't surprise me if you didn't see Texas in that. I think he was a USC commit that just decommitted. I think that he had some, prior ties to Pete Kwiatkowski up there in Washington. I think he had been recruiting him there. Obviously, and obviously Sark's ties to California is going to obviously put us in, I believe, in his top 5 when that comes out, hopefully sooner than later. So kind of just running through those top 5s, top 4s, top 8s in some hourglass at this particular point. And Noah Ford's putting out some information here. I know, was it Turner Gooden? So I think he said he's going to commit on Friday, the 26th. I think is when he's looking to commit. He's an athlete out of California, probably looking at safety for him. Obviously we'll kind of see where that goes. I think it's starting to point towards Arizona State University for him, is what it sounds like. So it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't pick Arizona State, but I think Texas is definitely in his top 3.
That's one of those positions, safety, that's so deep this year that we've talked about Kamari Wilson. We've talked about Allen out of Alito. We've talked about Hullaby, of course. We've talked about multiple kids. My favorite guy, the Beaumont Westbrook at this point. A lot of safeties, a lot of wide receivers, but where this class is going to come down to is in the trenches. And these guys are talking about it. I think you posted a question a little bit earlier before we came on air about, hey, who's your top priorities? Who's your top 3 recruits? If you guys haven't answered that question, please do so. But yeah, we're running out of receiver positions or receiver scholarships, I believe, really, really quickly. I think it's going to come down, like I said, to Anderson and Allen is probably the top 2 safeties, but then you got Kamari Wilson out of Florida. You got this kid you're talking about out of California. So areas that I feel like we're going to be able to recruit really, really well and solidify spots really, really well. It's going to come down to the offensive line. It's going to come down to defensive line. And then probably like we talked about the other day, we think it's 17 offensive recruits, 17/16 offensive recruits, and 10/11 defensive recruits to fill out those holes. Yeah, but somebody's talking online though. They're like 80 people in here, 35 likes. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Just trying to get together to try to submit this weekend and what we saw. Again, Texas basketball. We'll recap Texas sports kind of real quick. So softball got their first win today in their opener, and they're currently playing their second game of the season. Texas women's basketball won their game today. Texas baseball plays at 7:00 tonight. Unfortunately, yesterday, Texas baseball lost to Mississippi State, and Texas basketball, again, somehow lost a 19-point lead in the second half to West Virginia, which is very, very troubling. But like I say, glass half full kind of podcast here. We've turned over Saturday to Sunday. We're going to recap the positive things that have happened this week for the Longhorns. Like I said, Kevin Coleman has Texas in their final 8. Denver Harris. These are both top 20 players in the country. Currently has Texas in his final 4. But yeah, I think it's going to come down the trenches to the Campbells, Dewberries, and those kind of guys going forward. Your thoughts, Clint?
No, I'm just looking at Noah. Noah's giving us his insight into who's coming here, who's not coming here. Usually KD35 and Noah really talk to these guys. They follow them a lot, so I trust them. They're usually pretty spot on their game here. Just want to talk defensive line, really recruiting. Strong defensive end, weak side defensive end, and nose tackle in this class. I mean, really, in this class in the state of Texas. I went back and looked at it, and I did some numbers here, and I want to say there's less than 5 guys that are in the top 25 of each one of those positions in the state of Texas. Right now the defensive side of the ball this year, which is crazy to think how good this class really is. The 2022 class and how many guys are in the top 50 and how many guys are in the top 100. And if you think about it, if you think about it at this particular point, there's very little defensive names you can actually name in there. So I think if Texas is going to sign a strong defensive class, they're going to have to nail some of these guys down, like the defensive lineman out of Duncanville, and try to net the Andersons and the Allens and the Harrises, on the defensive side of the ball, but they're going to have to go out of state to find some big guys if they want them at this particular point. But if you go back and look at recruiting of really a 2020 and 2021 class, we did really, really good on the defensive line front, getting those guys. So I don't think it's as big as a need this year, and I think you could probably look to next year in that 2023 class and see what's out there as far as the defensive line. And if you didn't hear the last live from Friday night, Jeremy kind of outlined what the big board is probably going to look like at the end of this year, and that's really 2000. Probably having 17 guys on the offensive side of the ball and probably 10 guys on the defensive side of the ball. So that defensive side is not going to be very big moving forward.
Yeah, like we talked about, if there's a position of depth at this current on the current roster, it is in defensive line. And so, yeah, you can afford, and maybe that's why you made a concerted effort to sign those guys in 2020 class and 2021 class, because you saw maybe foresight, and this is maybe an attaboy to the last staff, is, hey, we need to get these guys now because the 22 class, and again, guys evolve differently. You know what I mean? Like there's guys out there like Malik Murphy who have no snaps as a varsity player, but if you watch his 7-on-7 tape, there's no question he's a 5-star quarterback. Faison Wilson was the same kind of deal. I think we talked about in 19, he caught 8 passes, 20, he caught 2 or 3 passes. So the kids caught 11 passes and had in football. But you can see the talents there in the 7-on-7 tournament they're currently having in Arizona. So yeah, it's really, really weird how kids develop from their sophomore to junior to the senior year in high school. But yeah, if there's a position of depth currently on the current Texas roster, it is a defensive line, and you can afford to go other places in the 2022 class. But yeah, a guy like Amari Auber from Duncanville, you would love to have that kid. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, hey, you're probably going to have to go out of state for those studs in the front 7, like a Nawafi from California.
I just don't think you need a lot of them based on the talent you currently have on 40 acres, where you feel really, really strong at, with true freshmen playing last year. A couple of guys, man, that are like sophomores, a couple of guys that are juniors that are probably going to stay through their senior year. It wouldn't surprise me. So I right now that front 7, outside of those linebackers, which you picked up a couple of transfers, I think, and what you have in that 2021 class, and then going out there and getting, a couple of linebackers in this class, I'm really not really concerned with that, with the front 7, outside of just the linebackers. Now secondary, if you can nail a guy down like Harris, you do it. You get some guys, those safeties, one from Alito and the other one from Beaumont. You definitely want to get those guys in the fold. Everybody's kind of talking Brennan Thompson here, man. He's another. I don't know where you're playing at. Looking at size, you're looking at size of Brennan Thompson, fast as hell. Where I'd see him is probably a slot guy. But how many of those guys you need? If you're filling up your wide receiver class and you're only willing to only have a few more wide receiver positions available, where are you going to play it?
That's it. I think you ask yourself as an offensive staff, is Kevin Coleman my guy or is Brennan Thompson my guy? I think that's where you're at this point. Because again, I don't think he can play running back at his size. Yes. Can he? Yes. would he behind Bijan, behind Jaden Blue? I don't know that he's a natural running back fit. And so, yeah, where he's going to play is in the slot. When you got guys like Kevin Coleman, you got Evan Stewart. If you get Kevin Coleman, I think it comes down to Kevin Coleman, Brennan Thompson, scholarship battle. I really do.
Yeah, because if 5'10", 165,
no,
it's
I
either,
don't
it
agree
really
with you.
is. He's sitting there at this. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, Noah said I consider Thompson as an athlete. He could be anywhere on the field, not 165 pounds, man. No, he's a slot receiver at 165 pounds. If he gains 15, 20 pounds of muscle, yes, you could probably put him as a slot corner.
Corner is
or a jack of all trades. Deshaun James.
The slot corner is still pushing it. At 5'10", 180 pounds, the slot corner is still pushing it in today's
Deshaun
defense.
Jameson is the only one on the roster. Deshaun Jameson is the only one on the roster at 5'10". I think it's a Brennan Thompson, Kevin Coleman. I'm sorry, Noah. I just feel that way. I do. He's going to have to play receiver. At his current size and stature, he's going to have to play receiver.
Yeah, because if you look at it, it's Kevin Coleman's 5'11", 170 pounds, right? As a receiver, a 5-star wide receiver, right? The number 3 wide receiver in the nation. And then Brennan Thompson is sitting at, obviously, like I said, the same size at 5'10" and 165 pounds, 58 nationally, 7th, as an athlete. Who do you take? Because I think Jeremy's right. It's either Coleman or Thompson at this particular point. Because at 5'10", 165 pounds, I can't see him playing slot corner. He's definitely not going to play cornerback. If you look at the size of these cornerbacks that are coming out now, he'll never run under 6 foot. Me and Jeremy have been actually looking at tape of some guys that have sent us some huddle film over the last couple of weeks, and we had to kind of tell them, hey, you may have to move from a cornerback position to a slot position because of your size.
And okay, he's like, I'm not saying he's playing defense, but I really don't see him as a Y. I really don't see him as a Z. I don't see him as an X. I don't see him as a every down back. He could probably play third down back. I just don't know that is what we need at this point. Like when you're talking about building your big board and getting your 85 best athletes, again, I think it comes down to Kevin Coleman versus Brennan Thompson, because you're going to give a scholarship to a kid you're probably not going to play that much. And at this point, you're going to have a lot of those, man, especially in that receiver core. Again, you have 15 currently on scholarship. You just brought in Casey Kane. You just brought in Jaden Alexis. You just brought in, with this class, if they sign on signing day, another 4 or 5 top 4 stars, top 5 stars. You're going to have a lot of dudes who are on scholarship sitting on the bench. And at this point, I just don't know that you continue to do that and neglect other positions of need. It just doesn't make any sense to me. To take a Brennan Thompson over probably the 7th best lineman makes absolutely 0 sense to me. Big picture. But I don't know, man. That's just where I'm at. I look at things.
And again,
guys like
if people are talking about,
I'm not.
Is Garrett Wilson an outside receiver in Ohio State's offense? I don't. Again, we talked about this too. It's positionless football. I don't think that he's going to line people up where they're going to get the best matchups. It doesn't matter if they're inside guy, an outside guy. Again, if you look at number 6 for Alabama, look how skinny he was. He wasn't a big guy, but he lined up outside in Alabama's offense, because you had Jalen Waddle in the slot. But we're not saying that Brent Thompson's not a guy. You're right. It's into 100, top 100 guy. Absolutely. But and then somebody's talking about, well, I think Brennan Thompson's got more upside than actually Chris Marshall. Chris Marshall's only played 1 year of football. His junior year, he's only played 1 year of football. So I don't know what his upside is. I can tell you that at the end of this probably recruiting cycle, he's probably going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the nation, just based on what he's done, this year, what he's doing in 7-on-7 this week in Bullhead City, doing what he's doing there. And then probably his senior year, it wouldn't surprise me that Chris Marshall at the end of the year is not a top 10, top 15 wide receiver in the nation.
Yeah.
In the nation.
And again, we've talked about where that comes from. Like, he is playing at Fort Bend Marshall, who plays upper echelon Texas football. Brennan Thompson, again, plays at Spearman. Like I said, I'm not dogging the kid. I'm not saying anything negative. What I'm saying is there's a whole lot of difference between a guy who plays in St. Louis, Missouri, a guy who plays in Houston, a guy who plays at Spearman. And again, he's a fast kid. I've enjoyed his tape. It's just what it comes down to, and it's going to be coach's preference. And I'm not saying he's not going to have a roster spot on this team. If he's offered and he takes it, that's one thing. But what I'm saying is, you're at 2020. Like, I don't know how many receivers are graduating. You graduated Brendan Eagles last year, but a whole lot of guys that we're naming, Omir's not a senior or junior. Woodard's not a senior or junior. Cavante Dixon's not a senior or junior. Josh Moore is. Jake Smith would be a junior coming into this season, but he has an extra year of eligibility, which makes him a sophomore. Whittington the same way. Jaden Alexis, Casey Kane. You have a lot of young receivers. Kennedy Lewis. Like, there's a ton. DeJon Harrison. I can continue. You know, how many receivers do you need on a football team? At a certain point, you pick the best 4 or 5 this particular year, and you get after it. Like, I don't know, man. But to me, it's Kevin Cole.
Because again, he's not going to rotate. He's not going to rotate the receiver. I think you're going to have guys leave the program. I think it's a possibility you have guys leave the program because what he's not going to do is he's not going to rotate these receivers out. He's going to put the best people on the field, and he's going to play them each and every down. So the chances of these guys getting into the game are going to be very slim anyway. So how many scholarship wide receivers do you currently need on a roster? And I think he said that in his, when he was talking about, I don't know if it was recruiting presser. He was talking about how many scholarship wide receivers have and how many scholarship tight end guys we have. We'll see. This is a nice place to be when you can be talking about 5, 6, 7 top 100 guys and which one's the best fit for your offense at this particular point going forward. And I don't think you go wrong getting any of these guys. I can tell you that I think Coleman is a take in this class. We'll kind of see where we sit with CJ Williams. We'll kind of see where we sit with Chris Marshall. But it's a good conversation when you're talking about 3 top 10 wide receivers in the nation, and then talking about an athlete that's sitting at number 58 in the nation that you're trying to find a spot for. Then you're talking about a Chris Marshall that played only his junior year that has the upside of probably any wide receiver in the nation going into his senior year. So, hey, we'll wait to see kind of where the ball drops on this situation. But I can tell you what, they're only going to take about 3 more wide receivers. So whoever that is, if they don't count Brendan Thompson as a wide receiver, there may be another scholarship is available for him outside of that wide receiver room. We'll see how they go with that. I didn't know we were going to go down the rabbit hole of wide receivers, for 20 minutes, but that was good.
I love where we're at.
Obviously,
hang on just a second. That's where we need to be. Is the ability to critique every position on this football field or on this football team. That's how good you want to be. Is when you're talking about the 4th or 5th best linebacker, and that 4th or 5th best linebacker is a high 4-star, 5-star commit. You know what I mean? That's where this program used to be. The 88, like early Mac Brown team, the national championship team. Yeah, it had its Brian Robinsons. It had its 2 or 3 stars. Colt McCoy's team had its 3. It's sprinkled in 2 or 3 stars. But if you're going to win national championships, you need to be talking about the 4th best linebacker. You need to talk about the 4th best receiver and 5th best receiver. And so, I enjoyed this talk because you damn sure didn't have it in the 2021 class, and that's not a knock on these athletes, because I put out a tweet a little bit earlier last night. I said, hey, if the 8 out of the 10 best athletes by Rivals or 247 or wherever they got that graphic from is playing in Oklahoma, and I know Caleb Williams is not going to have that much impact on Oklahoma because I understand that he's going to have to beat out the other guy for the job, and so I don't really believe that. I believe that we have more impactful players, but if you don't take that stuff to heart, then you're in the wrong business, man. And that's the kind of roster we need to develop is to see ourselves, year to year having the 8 out of the 10 best, players in the Big 12. And I think we're well on our way. You chronicled it already. We had one top player in the top 15 in the state of Texas last year. We already surpassed that if we get the guys that are currently committed to sign. And so, we're definitely going the right direction. It's just I get fired up over you guys understand the roster, the total team. And I just would hate to see a bevy of talent in one position area where you can't get them all on the field. Again, you can only have so many quarterbacks touch the ball. You can only have so many running backs touch the ball. You can only have so many receivers touch the ball. And like Clint said, you're not going to be in the same area where you were last year, where dudes are coming off the field and coming on the field. He's going to play his best 3 or 4 dudes. 4, 5, 6 at the most, and that's what it's going to be. But yeah, just my thoughts.
So it's funny because usually they're talking about offensive linemen, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But it's funny because usually your offensive linemen are the first ones to commit. Your skill players are the ones that are the last ones to commit. It's backwards here. All your skill guys are trying to get their spot on the roster, while your offensive line guys sit out there. Where I'm sitting with the offensive line right now, and obviously these skill players, we talked about this too, is that skill players can't do anything if you don't have an offensive line that blocks for your quarterback. And I think we sit in a really good place for Kelvin Banks at this particular point. I think we sit in a really good place for Cam Dewberry. I think we sit in a really good place, obviously, really good place with Devin Campbell. And I think that Kyle Flood has cast a wide net, and they kind of know where they're sitting at as far as recruits. What I haven't seen is, and maybe this is something for y'all to look at, is how many people we haven't offered as far as offensive lines since the last net that we did cast. That's something to look at, because if they're not pushing offers out there, they feel really good about the guys that are currently out there. I think if you look at the way these offers move forward into the summer, I think there may be concern if they start, pushing for more offensive tackles and more offensive guards, more offensive tackles and more offensive guards. But since they push for Rice and they push for all these other, out-of-state targets for offensive tackles, you really haven't seen another large push on the offensive line. So I think they really feel really good where they're at. I think it's just getting the balls to drop on that side of the ball. I think once one offensive line commits, I think you'll see the same things happening with these skill players. I think you'll see another one. And I think what we'll be seeing pretty I'm going to say probably middle of March somewhere, I think we'll have multiple offensive line commits moving forward into really the spring and going into the summer. Definitely offensive line is definitely a need, because we didn't really get much in this last class. Talk about 7-on-7, man. If you haven't seen, those little short videos of 5-star quarterback Malik Murphy, go check those out, man. I think and again, 7-on-7 is not the same as playing 11 personnel football. Obviously he'll have a chance here. I think he's got 5 or 6 games in the state of California that he's going to be able to play this spring. And I think you can actually stream those games. I mean, Jeremy may pay the $10.99, to I think $10.99 a month to be able to stream those games, to be able to watch his football team, watch him, obviously would like to watch him play. But damn, man, he's got a rocket of an arm, man. He's fitted in tight windows, man. Very tight windows, which is a good thing to see. Your thoughts, man, on what you've seen from his video out there?
I mean, I already talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we signed him, and people were kind of, hey, this kid hasn't played. What we had seen in 7-on-7s in the workout footage that we've been sent, kids flat-footed, throwing 15-yard outs to each hash mark, 25-yard outs to each hash mark, 35-yard outs to each hash mark, with no drop back, no nothing. So you knew the arm strength was there. Again, like you said, 7-on-7 is different ball game, 11-on-11, but he can make every throw in the game, man. Like 47-yarder that he threw yesterday. Folks were asking, how long was that? 47 yards, straight down the hash. Guy dropped the ball, but can fit balls in tight windows. We saw that with the over-the-shoulder a couple of times today, that he hit guys on fade routes in the corner of the end zone. Yeah, he's clean. He's very clean. And again, he doesn't have a whole lot of varsity time, so he's kind of at a very high ceiling, low floor kind of guy. So he can only get better, I think, because he's so young at the position and not had those reps that are required. But no, yeah, I've talked about what I think of Malik Murphy over the last 3 or 4 shows.
And personality too, man. Personality galore, man. I like that, man. You gotta have personality, and if you go look at him, he's always smiling. Mike Roach wrote a piece where he was talking about it's confidence, but it's cocky, but it's not. There's some cockiness there, but it's confidence, but it's not over the top. You know what I'm saying? And I think you have to have that as a quarterback, and I think you have to have that as a leader, and I think you have to have some of that when you're trying to get your guys. Just look at, and I'm not comparing him to Vince Young. Absolutely would not do that at this particular point now as a junior in high school. But Vince Young had that, and he could do that in the locker room. He could do that on the football field, bobbing the head and doing those things, man. And I think that you have to have some personality at being a quarterback in college football. And I think you've seen that personality in those clips, man. But his damn arms are rocket. That first ball he threw over the top for 45, 46, 47 yards, whatever it was, for that first touchdown. I think he went 7 for 7, all touchdowns on all the drives that he had. He's a freak, dude. He is a freak. He's freaking. He had mama putting up the hook 'em horns today too, which I like to see. So.
Hey, so real quick, I want to address Jeff G. So Jeff G, Malik is not a dual threat quarterback. I'm pretty sure he's a pretty fast kid to be playing in Juniper Sarah. But what I talked to Clint about yesterday when I was watching his film of the 7-on-7 tournament is he's got a thick lower half, man. Like, I kind of like it. He's definitely a pocket passer, and you're going to have to get a hold of him to take him down. He's 6'4", 225 pounds at this current point. And he is thick in the lower half. Like, you are going to have to wrap him up to get him down. He's similar to, I think, a body type of like a Ben Roethlisberger. Like, dudes are hanging off Ben Roethlisberger in the NFL, and he somehow finds a way to slip out. And like Clint said, he has a rocket of an arm. So not sure about his top end speed and his ability to run if he gets pressure. Because again, there's not a whole lot of game film on him at that level in 11-on-11 football where you'd see that. But as far as a thick lower half who's going to be hard to bring down and probably can step up in the pocket and elude, defensive linemen and make a throw, I think he has all those tools.
Hey, Timothy, I know I keep freezing up here, and I apologize for that. My internet it's been kind of shoddy for the last couple of days. I don't know why that is, but I can tell you, and it's probably because I got 2 kids that are playing gaming devices. I got a wife that's up there streaming Netflix. I've got 3 computers in front of me and my phone. So I've turned off 2 computers on the network, and we'll kind of see how we go from there. So, but yeah, I can tell you it's been an unstable network for the last couple of days.
Yeah, 2 things I want to talk about real quick. Mm-hmm. Clint talked about them earlier. Again, Stephen Noddy, his mom passed away of COVID. We have a link a little bit in the description of the podcast, also a little bit further up in the comments. His brother's going to have to relocate because of his mom's passing. If you got a chance, if you can, please go donate to that. And then there's 115 people in here. There's 59 folks that have liked our program. If you like what TFT brings to you, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Working hard every single day to kind of bring you the latest, what is now off season of recruiting, and a little bit of basketball, sprinkling a little bit of baseball and all UT sports fans. So really appreciate you guys' attendance here on a Sunday afternoon. Much love to Stephen and those guys over Fanatic Perspective. Again, they were the grandfathers of Texas U2, and we want to, do everything we can for those guys.
Hopefully that fixed it. And my wife just got off Netflix and went for a run. So hopefully that brings some more juice to the table as well. So she just sent me a text message, said the puppy's in the kennel. Puppy's in her kennels. I'm going for a run. So she's out. She went for a run. So hopefully that makes the internet move a little faster on my side at this particular point. What else we got here? Coach's contracts, man, came out.
The lineman talk. I love the lineman talk.
I know you do.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, and we need some.
I was drawing. No, I'm sorry. So yeah, on
we need someone
podcast,
to commit so that we can talk about them a little bit more.
Yeah, so I was just scribbling down my lineman. I know you're freezing up, and we're probably talking over each other sometimes. But yeah, as we were talking, drawing out my offensive line, Campbell Dewberry, Banks, Ogbo, the kid out of Seattle, Washington, Spanaway, Washington, was running routes in that 7-on-7 tournament, making 2-point conversions. You got the kid Connor Robinson out of Austin, Westlake. But yeah, just like I said, I really appreciate this coaching staff. They know what they have in state, but yet they're not going to rely on that. They're going to go outside and try to find athletes wherever they can. Let's talk coaching, because the article came out on 247 this week about coaching salaries and Texas breaking the bank. But as we really looked at it, we really didn't see it that way. Go ahead, Clint. What do you got?
Yeah, no. So obviously, when Tom Herman got, obviously before Tom Herman got terminated, there was some thoughts of Urban Meyer coming here, and there were, numbers out there upwards of $11, $12 million. And if you go back and look at what Sark is actually making, he's not going to make what Tom Herman makes through his first 3-4 years, compared to what Tom Herman was making this last year at $5.75 million. I think he makes during his fourth year or so, he's going to be upwards about $5.8 billion, moving into $6 billion and $6.2 million in that fifth or sixth year, which is, I like that long contract with him. I think stability is important at this particular point. Hopefully he can get us to where we need to be at. And then looking at, obviously we actually went and looked at Coach Choate's pay there at Montana State. We were kind of interested in what he made there, because he's currently making $500,000 to be a position coach at the University of Texas. He was making at about $216,000 at Montana State as their head coach, and then with incentives of $80,000 for doing coaching shows and $30,000 for showing up for Montana State events, he was bringing in at about $300,000, man. But I think they went out and got the right coaches. I'm not concerned about the salaries at this particular point with this coaching staff. Banks is I think all his money, I think 75% of his money is in recruiting. The other 25% is in special teams. I think that's where that $1 million comes in. But to pay Pete Kwiatkowski, I think $1.7 million over 3 years to be your defensive coordinator. And then I think Kyle Flood's currently sitting at $1.1 million to really be your co-offensive coordinator slash your offensive lineman coach, man. And I think really where that money is made up is the fact that this coaching staff can actually recruit versus the other coaching staff we had that was really hands off.
Totally agree. Like, I think it's, again, I'm sorry that we're going to have to pay Tom Herman what would be a buyout of what was it, $10 million over the next couple of years. But at the same time, like you talked about earlier, Urban Meyer's staff is probably going to be more expensive. Again, you get Steve Sarkisian and probably half his staff what you would pay the head coach. $11 million and 5.8, it's a big difference. Again, you probably could have paid all your position coaches what the leftover is going to be. And again, you have to think about that when you're talking about the buyout that you still have to pay Tom Herman.
So somebody asked a question here, which I think is a soft-topic question from the coaching stuff. But somebody says, does it look bad when Texas passes over a local kid to get somebody else?
Nope.
Absolutely not. Because if I
call
Jeremy,
85 dudes.
Yeah. If I call Jeremy and said, hey, you got a spot on my team, and you're like, you're a 4-star, and then I've got 3 other guys that are on my board, and I call them and say, hey, the first available, the first person that commits to my team is the guy that I'm going to take, and you're honest with these guys, no, there's not a problem with it. Because, again, it goes back to that Quinn Ewers situation. Why the hell are we going to wait for Quinn Ewers to decommit for Ohio State before we pick up Malik Murphy, who's another 5-star? That would almost be crazy to me. So you're left out in the dark with nobody after Klubnik goes somewhere. All the Texas quarterbacks go somewhere. He doesn't decommit from Ohio State, and then you're stuck with what? You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to stick with your guns when you're looking at your board. And if you're confident in the guys that you have on your board and you're willing to take their commitment, you take their commitment if they're willing to give it to you. I don't care if they're in state or out of state. Do you think Alabama, again, Texas is a big state, but Alabama doesn't win with Alabama players. Ohio State would just win with Ohio State players, and Ohio State's got really good football.
They can't. And again, the whole let's show up the state of Texas. Yes, that top 15 dude that you're talking about. Yeah, I want all those guys. But guess what? My class is going to be 25 to 27 dudes every year. So yeah, I want the best 85 football players. Again, I'm a big board guy. Hey, this is how many guys I got that are graduating. This is how many slots I need to fill. I'm going after the best dudes to fill those slots, regardless of geographical location. I care less if they're from Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, LA, California, Pontchartrain, Louisiana. I could care less. I want the best dudes to play on my football team, because that's what we care about as fans, right? Is wins and losses. So why would I settle, for a kid who's less than what I could get just because he lives within the state of Texas? It makes zero sense to me. But yeah, that's our answer. I want the best 85 guys.
Because that's what's going to continue to. Again, it's all about wins and losses. And if my job is about wins and losses, I want the best available players to play on my team.
Again, if we're talking about the 10th best receiver and the 4th best linebacker, again, I don't care about geographical location where they come from. And I don't care if they're a grad transfer, within the state of Texas, outside the state of Texas. I want the best 85 dudes. I want the best 2 deep that I walk into Saturdays in October, November, December to be the best 22 dudes on each side of the football field and know that I got 22 dudes behind them that are just as good. Like that makes zero sense to me. And yeah, like you said, my $5.8 million paycheck is dependent upon how these guys perform. I'm not going to care where they come from. To me, that makes zero sense. So to answer your question, brother Jeremy, no, I don't care.
You know, Mike Stroh brings up the fact, he said homesickness is the only concern with out-of-state players. And you do see it. You know, I can tell you that it's something that you're going to have to worry about. But that's if you're winning and you have a really good environment, it lessens that by a lot. I'm going to tell you. But it's not. That's obviously a concern. It's always going to be a concern getting an 18 to 21-year-old kid to come play at your program from out of state and having parents not being around his parents for the first time, whatever the case may be. Believe me, I've dealt with it with young soldiers that obviously get homesick and want to go back home, and you got to have a really good support system where they're at to know that they're taken care of. I think that's important. So,
I'd be more homesick if I was living in Norman, Oklahoma, than if I was living in Austin, Texas. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're gonna be homesick, you want to live in Lubbock? You want to live in Norman?
College Station?
Exactly. Again, we don't understand it because we've never recruited on this. It's been a long time since we recruited coast to coast. And so we haven't had to deal with what you're talking about at Texas because we pretty much confined ourselves inside the border of this state. And it does produce great football players. And more than half of this class will come from the state of Texas. Again, Jalen Gilbo's from Texas, Jaden Blue's from Texas, Evan Stewart's from Texas. We'll still get our Texas football players. But yeah, I'll take my chances with homesickness when you're living in Austin and your football team is competing for Big 12 championships, competing for national championships and college football playoff appearances. I think these kids will be okay. And like Clint said, the culture is where it needs to be. I don't think homesickness would really rationally be a reason why you would leave. But again, the transfer portals allowed kids to jump in and jump out of programs. Internet. Again, we lost 2 kids from the Houston area. Jalen Green and Xavier offered to USC this year. They left Austin to go to California. Jalen Green was a 3-year starter. Like, kids are going to make decisions based upon what they feel is the right environment for them. So I say go get the best 85 football players and supplement them every year with the best 22, 23, 24 best football players and see where that takes you, man. It's simple for me.
I think what – Matt Brown he obviously his teams won. They were winning at a rate, and you could snatch up all the in-state players, but you can't do that right now because you're obviously competing with Texas A&M and you're competing with Oklahoma for in-state guys. Plus your other schools, Baylor and Texas Tech. You're never going to just get all Texas players. It's not going to happen. Do you want to get the best Texas players? Absolutely. And do you want to be able to go out there and get your pick of the litter from a California, from a Florida, from a Louisiana, from wherever you want to go, and get those guys? Absolutely. But you're never going to have a roster just full of Texas guys, man. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be better players out there that you have an opportunity to get. The 2 best offensive tackles aren't from Texas. They're from Virginia. You think it'd be crazy to not offer these 2 guys from Virginia a scholarship to come to the University of Texas, even though you have a Cam Dewberry and a Kelvin Banks in your backyard? Absolutely not, because Kelvin Banks may, at one particular point had crystal balls to go to Oklahoma State, and Cam Dewberry was the Texas A&M lean. What are you going to do when those guys go somewhere else? You're going to be like, okay, well, we didn't get our Texas guys. I think it's just important that you try to get the best Texas guys you can to come to the University of Texas. Obviously, loyal to the soil is one of those things that we're about. But at the same time, you can go out there and get supplement the Texas guys with guys from out of state. I think that's important. But you don't turn down a 5-star quarterback like Malik Murphy just because you're worried about somebody's feelings getting hurt in the University of Texas. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because Sark had officially failed if he did that. That's a problem. He would have failed as a head coach.
The day you start letting recruits dictate to you, your program, what you're going to do is a time that you're not going to be successful. But it just makes zero sense to me. Again, like you said, supplement those Texas players with the best players you can get in the country. And again, like you said, Sark's an honest guy. He probably told Quinn Ewers, hey, man, we'd love to have you. But guess what? I'm seeking out Cade Klubnik. I'm seeking out Malik Murphy. I'm seeking out this dude. And guess what? The first two that jump are going to get scholarships, and that's it. I'm moving on. Just like I said, it's going to be an arms race, man. You talked about the skill position guys going before the trenches guys, and which is a rarity because the trenches guys historically don't like this process. Like they want to be done with it. But yeah, it's backwards this year. It's kind of fun. Somebody wants a shout out though.
Yeah, I seen that, man. Clifton Hines, I'll give you a shout out, man. Hey, shout out, Hookem, man. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you listening to us tonight, Clifton. I appreciate it. Clifton Hines, man, I'll give you a shout out there. Max, yeah, we did. I think he offered offensive tackle out of New York because that's where Kyle Flood's at up there in, I think, New York area. And he offered someone from his high school that he actually, I think, coached at. He's there, man. David Williams here. It's great. There is interest in Texas right now. The interest is based on Coach Sarkisian, not Texas being a winning program. Texas need to win 10 games each season to interest would be legitimate. Absolutely. I think you're always going to get the new coach bump, the new car smell. Obviously, coming off a national championship with the offense that he had at Alabama didn't hurt. And I think a lot of these guys see that. But I think his personality traits, who he is, personable, and all those things, I think that helps as well. It's a new car smell. Obviously, it happens with every class. If you go back and look at the previous coach's first class, outside of that transition class, he did really, really well too. But it's all about winning those games, and once you start winning those games consistently and start winning the Big 12 championship, don't worry about it. You're going to have guys lined up at your door to take your scholarships.
Covered that pretty well. Totally agree.
Jeremy Howard Wise says Jay Fair goes to TCU. We're all going to hate it for 3 years. There's a couple of TCU guys that I wish Texas would have got. They got a couple of wide receivers there that are currently a wide receiver that's currently playing there this last year. You can't get them all, so you got to play against them. The guys you don't get, you got to play against them because they're more likely going to pick a Baylor or TCU or Oklahoma. Somewhere in the conference you're going to have to play against these guys, and you'll just have to listen to Texas didn't offer them, or Texas didn't give them a scholarship, or Texas didn't pay any attention to them. You'll just have to hear that in every broadcast that happens, It's just kind of where we're at.
You're probably talking about the TCU from last year was the Johnson kid.
Yeah.
Originally a Texas guy.
Flyer.
6'5", dude, who's a monster. But yeah, like you said, if you don't get them on campus, then you're probably going to have to play against them because they're going to go to TCU, they're going to go to Baylor, they're going to find their way in the Big 12, and you're going to be playing against them.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece. Steve Sexton talking about, Sark staffs knows how to develop. And again, it goes back to that piece that they put out about, Pete Witkowski and talking to some of the guys in the front office with the Dallas Cowboys and how they trust his development with players. And I think that's important. If you have front offices, NFL front offices that trust these coaches and how they develop their players, I think that has to do a lot with not just the ability of the player, but the trust of the coaches that are developing these players to get them, drafted to where they are in college football or in the NFL.
Yeah, show you. I agree with you. We got a shot. He says a lot of that stuff to be shock value, man. We love him. But yeah, go look at their roster. Go look at our roster. Yeah, we have a chance to compete. Again, like you said, we lost the game because the kid fumbled at the goal line. We didn't make a jump. We tried to sit on the lead against Iowa State. Tried to execute a fake punt in our own end. Didn't take a field goal when we needed to. Fell behind Oklahoma, only to come back from 15 points down. No, we're not that far away, man. You're absolutely right. We're not that far away.
No, and I think he knows it too.
No.
He actually said at multiple press conferences that this team is literally three games, a couple of scores from winning 10 games and a couple of scores from losing 5 games. So I think he knows what he has. I think he knows what talent he has. And I think right now they're going to develop these guys, man. We're ready to play. Come the fall, man. I'm excited, but we got a long ways to get before the end. We're gonna have a lot of shows between now and in the time that we play that first game. A lot of spring game material. We'll kind of start breaking down once we kind of identify where these guys are going to be playing. We'll probably start identifying really position battles. Kind of go through those. I'll tell you who we'll think will start on the 11 and on both sides of the ball. Those 22 moving forward. Didn't run Bijan enough. You didn't add that in there.
Yeah, recruiting's fun now, man. Like I said, you got to continue. Like Jeremy said, you got to continue to build on it with developing players that go to the league in the first day, second day of the draft, and competing with Oklahoma for Big 12 championships. And again, these guys are saying OU's right. OU has a chance, and we thought that this past year was the year to get them, but again, you got a different coaching staff with a different set of philosophy. You got a good roster to work with. And I'm not going to sell this team short. Again, you lost games that you should have won against those two teams, meaning Iowa State and Oklahoma. And then TCU was just – I don't understand it. But, yeah.
I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down it. Definitely don't want to be – doesn't affect what's happening moving forward. It really doesn't. You really can't change it. So it doesn't affect what moving forward. So we got positive momentum on the recruiting trail. Like I said, we just argued literally about 15 minutes about what wide receivers to take and what wide receivers not to take. That's a good place to be as far as recruiting goes. And that's the way it's going to kind of be. It's keep your head on swivel and look at Twitter and look at all these boards that they're out there, and you can read all the information you want to. We'll see who commits next. The excitement is real, but
yeah, you
got players. I've been a Longhorn fan since.
No, you got players across the country that would probably would never have been interested in this program prior to this new administration coming here. That wouldn't given Texas a second look if the old coach was still the current coach and the staff would have been here. Again, this new coaching staff has opened up doors both in-state and out-of-state, that should make you excited about following this program over the next 4 or 5 months, getting ready to play ball in the 2021 season. And, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Hopefully it's COVID-free. Hopefully we'll have 100,000 folks packed in DKR, because me and Clint are trying to get there for sure.
Yeah, it's Steve Sexton said, I'd love to be a fly on the grass in spring practice. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that 2022 messenger with all the commits. Group chat. That's where I'd like to be a fly on the wall at. Hey, so if any of y'all listening to this podcast, you can hit us up on our DM and you can invite us to that. We'll keep our mouth shut. I promise. All right. I'd like to be on fly on the wall in that group chat. Ben Williams talking about, I'm interested in see how the secondary recruiting evolves in the 2022 class, especially at the safety position. There are some exceptional recruits out there in the state at the position. I think we're pretty close to nailing down a few of those guys. I really do. I feel really, really good about one. I feel about 100% on one, about 75% on the other, and I think we have a 25% chance of getting the top three, a top three cornerback in the nation. But at safety, I think we're gonna be okay moving forward in that position as well, man. You got some young talent too that are still on the 40 acres. That I'm excited to see this year. Really, really excited to see this year. And I think BJ Foster is going to take a big leap, man, with this new coaching staff. I really do. I think if you get BJ Foster healthy with that shoulder, I think moving forward, I think you'll see him have a huge leap this year. I'm glad he came back.
I agree with everything you said. BJ Foster, Jaron Thompson coming up, kid like Coffee in the 2021 class. And like you said, I feel pretty comfortable with a couple of in-state guys, at safety at this point. Maybe not. Again, these kids, it's fluid, man. They don't get an offer from school that they've always wanted to go to or would like to go to, and changes things. So you never want to, put the hay in the barn before the hay's in the barn. But at the same time, Feel pretty good about that safety position with this 22 class.
Yeah, no doubt. OU's going to be good, man. They have a talented roster in a quarterback that's uber talented, man. So I'm not going to take anything away from OU. But again, you have a shot. We're talented. I believe the development of our coaches. River rivalry. It doesn't matter who the best team is. Really doesn't. Both those teams are going to show up. They're going to play, and we'll go from there, man. Ones that we need to worry about right now are the Iowa States and the TCUs and the guys that we should beat each and every Saturday moving forward. And then we'll worry about Oklahoma and the River rivalry, and then
100%,
the Big 12 championship, man.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like the moment that the only game that ever matters is that one in October in the State Fair. Then we'll be in a good spot. When we beat TCU and we beat the Iowa States and we beat the Baylors and we beat the Texas Techs, and that game really is for the Big 12 championship or an appearance in the Big 12 championship game. And again, it's always if you're playing with that one and that's the only loss you have, you're going to play each other again in December. So yeah, that's the focus. It's getting good enough to beat TCUs and Iowa States and Baylors and Texas Techs. You know, the moment that's the only game you have to worry about is where we want to be.
Hell yes. Hell yes. McCabe Lyons says,
But now you got Alabama, circulating on your non-conference after this year. So
it's funny. McCabe Lyons says, I just don't want to see us I just don't see us being worse than what we were.
Nope.
And again, you don't have to worry about putting on the brakes before halftime and after halftime. You don't have to worry about the brakes being hit. He's already told you. He's all gas, no brakes. It's not. They're not going to turtle up and do those other things. Man, they're going to try to put a 100 on everybody. And I think that's where we need to be at. You know what I'm saying? To win college football games these days, you have to outscore your opponents each and every week. You have to. But I'm actually, I'm a defensive guy, man. I'm excited about Pete Witkowski and what he can do with his defense, man. I was a Chris Ash guy, man, and I believed in Chris Ash, and I think Chris Ash would have done well if he would have came back in a second season. But I'm also excited about Pete Witkowski, man, a guy that's been on the West Coast, all his entire, college football coaching career, done really good things at UW, put a whole bunch of talent in the NFL. Just imagine what he can do, a roster of guys that are top tier talent. That's what I'm excited about. He does well against spread offenses too. So we'll kind of see where we're going with there, man. So I'm really, really excited about this coaching staff, and I don't want to get too excited right now because we have a long time until next season starts, and we'll have a lot of conversations between now and then.
All right, brother. I got to get dinner cooked, man.
Absolutely, man.
It's 6 o'clock. We've been getting after it for an hour.
Yeah.
Really didn't expect this show to go that long. Like, had a couple of topics we want to talk about, like we said, with the kids that didn't come and the kids that have put us in their final group. But yeah, we got started after receivers and it just kept growing. Let's get some interior linemen. Let's get some linemen in this class, man. Let's get this thing going. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us over this last hour. Really fired up for this coming season.
I'm excited, man. Yeah. So hopefully something pops for me and Jeremy get back on here again for another live. Hopefully we get some commitments happening over the next couple of days. I think we'll probably be back on Wednesday. I think Wednesdays is the days we're trying to do it now. I think Wednesdays and Sundays is good for me and Jeremy. I think middle of the week, depending on what sports is going on right now. But I think Wednesdays is usually pretty good and Sundays is pretty good. But hey, we appreciate y'all listening to us this Sunday. Want you to
fish tacos. They're asking what's for dinner. Fish tacos for me.
Fish tacos, and I'm reading comments. And if I start reading comments, I get excited, and we have to go for another 10 minutes. So I'm not going to read those. Okay. So Jeremy's having fish tacos. Hey, thanks for listening to us on this Sunday. Y'all have a wonderful work week. We'll more than likely be back on the live on Wednesday. We appreciate you listening as always. You can find us on Twitter at TX Football Talk, on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, and on Instagram at Texas Football Talk. And again, we put a GoFundMe link for Steve Noddy's family from Fanatic Perspective in the comments. If you're able to give, please give. We'd appreciate it. He's like family, but we appreciate your support. and y'all have a wonderful week.
Kendrick, Clint has the 40. I have the bench. We already discussed this last show.
Yeah.
He can run a faster 40. I can bench press more than he can. We covered this. Thanks. Later.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome.